Hello out there, and welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. Brand new sack of material for tonight. It's been a really, really good week in the news, as it were. Sitting in the hot seat as usual, my co-host for this evening's festivities, none other than the great wizard of historical knowledge himself, Mr. Eric Smith. How you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm doing very well, Matt.
It's so serious this time, huh?
Very well.
I'm losing my mind, Dave, kind of thing.
Why do you ask? Most people ask what I'm doing, not how I'm doing.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
Red rum. You want to kick this off?
Yeah.
So this comes from Unilad. I'm going to start a new segment, I think, periodically called Florida Man. It's just, because that's all. If you just Google Florida Man, you get the craziest freaking articles and things you've ever seen in your life. But this one starts with Florida Man, so that's the segment I think I'm going to start
Florida
calling.
Man.
Florida man arrested for stealing pool toys to have sex with instead of, quote, raping women.
Well, I guess it's a better
Look at this
alternative.
dude, man. He looks like someone drove over him repeatedly. Of course, that could be from the moment of arrest, I suppose.
He looks like he's angry at the air in front of him. Like he's constantly just got that face, like, you fuckers.
Christopher William Monin, the 35-year-old burglary suspect, allegedly broke into a number of homes in the city of Palm Bay and Brevard County, Florida. Each of the homes had private pools, which the suspect reportedly targeted in order to steal the flotation aids.
You know, this is the sort of thing that would make me be pro-electric fence around my property if I had such property.
Like armored sentries of some sort,
drones and stuff.
A recent increase in burglaries solely targeted towards the homeowner's pool area led police to believe they were looking for one suspect. That makes sense. According to the Palm Bay Police Department in Brevard County, again, we have to reiterate that, as per the Miami Herald, the city was plagued with burglaries in which the suspect cut the pool screen or entered the victim's pool area to steal only pool floats. It's like, that's all they took. So far this year, there have been an estimated 13 reports concerning the mysterious theft of pool toys. Court records show police made an arrest last Thursday, believing Monin to be responsible for the multiple thefts. Police allege multiple victims indicate that they had been burglarized several times by the 35-year-old, but only reported it on the second or third burglaries of their floats. Quote, the defendant stated that he sexually gratifies himself with the pool floats instead of raping women.
They stated that. How did they know that?
The defendant stated that he sexually... that's him saying that. Monin was arrested after a burglary on June 5th when police say the suspect cut the pool screen to get in onto the deck of a home in Palm Bay. Police stopped Monin a week later as a suspicious person after he was riding his bike on a street just after 1 a.m. on Thursday with a white rubbish bag full of deflated pool floats.
Oh, my God. Of all the ways I've spent my time, I don't think I'd waste my time doing that.
Monin will be arraigned on July 16th.
That should be entertaining. I'd like to see the footage on that arraignment.
Also from Unilad, Spider-Man spotted pressure washing roof during rainstorm. Where, Eric? Where?
Florida.
In Florida. Look at this dude, man. He's this...
Yeah, he's definitely in a Spider-Man outfit. Looks like he's got some pretty good shoes on of some nature. But
when Spider-Man isn't hanging off skyscrapers or using his spidey senses to seek out danger, it turns out he's doing chores in your local neighborhood, like cleaning your roof with a pressure washer while a storm brews in the background. Videos emerged on Instagram showing the superhero scrubbing at someone's roof, proving that even those with sixth senses still need to do boring everyday chores. The clip was shared on Instagram by George Martinez on Monday, and I'm not entirely sure if it's incredibly brave or just plain stupid.
See how people like their aliens and their superheroes? I mean, I'm pretty sure we're just making all this up. There are no mutants, there are no aliens, there are no deities. We're just making everything up. It's anything that's better than us. We'll just yes. Awesome.
It says, in the clip, you can hear two men debating over whether Spider-Man was tethered or simply relying on his spidey senses to keep him balanced upon the roof.
Yeah, what's left to talk about at that point?
Yeah, right?
Jeez. No.
Oh, Florida.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's constant. It's like America's drunk uncle. That's
Seems like it would be hot.
It is, man. Oh, you mean the suit?
Yeah.
Florida in general is pretty hot. Oh, God. This is right up your alley. This comes from IFL Science. It says, evidence of a British Atlantis discovered in the North Sea. Archaeologists believe they have discovered an ancient Stone Age settlement once home to thousands of people 8,000 years ago. Today, it rests at the bottom of the North Sea, having been drowned in rising sea levels after the last ice age.
Yet another underwater archaeological discovery.
For decades, fishers and oil exploration outfitters have reported finding worked bone, stone, and human remains in Brown Bank, a marine ecosystem located about 50 miles west of the Dutch coast. The amount of cultural material found in the area, the submerged land, now named Doggerland,
okay,
has long indicated a prehistoric settlement may have once resided here. For the first time, researchers have confirmed two potential prehistoric settlements located on what archaeologists believe was once the banks of an ancient river. To determine the best locations for exploration, researchers recreated the submarine landscape using the data provided by oil and gas companies, wind farm developers, and coal extractors. Who operate in this busy waterway. Coal out of the water?
Yeah, I guess it's not as easy as it used to be to collect things like oil and coal because we've essentially taken them from all the easy places. So now they've been developing ways to get at places where it's at, but it's inaccessible, like underwater.
Right.
Things like that. So I think they've been doing a lot of exploring, and probably now they know where they need to go to get the oil and the coal,
right.
And now they're probably just selling off all the other weird shit that they found, like, hey, remember that stuff we kept coming across that we used as a navigational marker? Yeah, that's like some kind of a settlement, right? I don't know, it kind of looks like it. I don't know, we should tell someone about it, but we'll have them pay a price first.
It says collectively they were able to determine areas that were more likely to have been home to past human activity using acoustic techniques and extracting physical samples of the seabed. Researchers found 3 sites that have the potential for archaeological and geological significance. Quote, this is a very exciting project to be involved in, said archaeologist Martin Bates of the University of Wales, Trinity St. David, in a statement. Our job is to examine all the cores that have been drilled into the seabed and reconstruct the geology of the changing environment over the last 100,000 years. From this information, we can pinpoint likely places on or beneath the seabed which might have evidence for activity by our ancestors living in this now lost landscape.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but if it's all buried under sediment and stuff, oh my God, that's going to be tough.
But still, if they mark it, they'll eventually do it.
Yeah, there it is again, cats. Those guys that do the lost shipwrecks, the gold guys, they've got it down to a science though for like sifting up the seabed and then they like discharge it down current. But and then they like fluff it so that they can find the gold and stuff that's in the sediment laying on the bottom. It's got like it's like a big vacuum cleaner.
But it's huge. They'll end up doing it because when they find these kind of settlements, they're literally going to be writing into the early parts of our history books that have yet been written into.
Well, yeah, because we're talking 10,000 years ago. That would be, and a lot of this will be preserved.
Yeah.
In a fairly pristine way.
Yeah. So it's pulling back the curtains on history at an earlier date, so people will definitely do it.
So much of this shit happening now.
Yeah.
So much of this stuff, especially in archaeology, that's happening. Like it's hard to keep up on what the accepted sort of whatever doctrine or ideology is on a lot of things now, because so much of it keeps changing so fast.
Yeah, yeah. And the more things that are found like this, it fuels further speculation, you know. So that's always a good thing too, especially when they're literally taking the curtains back from the early part of history. Speculating is pretty valuable.
But there's just so much of it, like South America, the LIDAR stuff that they're doing in South America, in the Middle East. I mean, now this stuff that's happening that they're finding
Satellite stuff.
underwater, the satellite stuff. I mean, how do you prioritize this?
I think people are just kind of dividing up into their specialties and doing it. You know,
And just everybody's chasing it all at once. And
yeah,
then,
like you pointed out, the field is expanding with this technology, so there's room for people, historians, to branch off into archaeology and become an expert at some form. Like if it's lidar, you're going to probably be looking under jungle canopy and
Right,
vines. If it's satellite, you're going to be looking at something different, like dried up riverbeds or trade routes. And of course, if it's underwater gear,
yeah. Well, this is cool as shit, man. I knew I'd throw these in here for you.
yeah, I'm glad. It's cool to hear about it.
So here's a fun one. This comes from Gizmodo. Google Calendar dies 1 hour after Google tweets about how great it is.
Can't take a compliment, I guess.
No, it's not you. Google Calendar really does appear to be down. Navigating to calendar, google.com will present you with a 404 error. Twitter users began to complain about the outage at approximately 10:05 a.m. Eastern Time, and Gizmodo staff has been unable to navigate to Google Calendar from either the U.S. or Canada. Well, maybe you shouldn't brag, right?
How's it over in Canada? Nope. Move over to the left. Nothing. I did hear about this one.
You did?
Yeah, because obviously Boaty McBoatface is going to capture my attention.
So that's what happens when you let the internet name something.
Yeah, but did you hear or see? I don't know if it was the same article or not, where they were actually going to name the ship that, and in the end they said no, they're not going to do it. So they named this thing that, but it was supposed to be the ship. The ship
That's
ended up
right.
being called something like this, or James or David or something like that.
And everybody's all the scientists and engineers.
They're like, no.
And everybody is like, we are not going to go out on Boaty McBoatface to make revolutionary scientific
Not
discoveries.
in this United Kingdom, we're not.
This comes from Futurism. Boaty McBoatface makes major discovery on maiden voyage. Boaty McBoatface is no longer just an internet sensation. It is also a valuable contributor to climate change research. In 2016, the Natural Environment Research Council asked internet users to name its new research ship, but when Boaty McBoatface won the poll, they decided the moniker would be better suited to one of the ship's bright yellow autonomous submarines.
And I love how, nevertheless, even though they relegated the name to the insignificant little submarine they had, the submarine still makes worldwide attention. And the crux of the article starts off with, oh, by the way, they wanted to name the boat this, but they said no.
You know, there's some scientist someplace back home sitting there, and they come in. Hey, one of the submarines made a world-altering scientific discovery, and he's going, please don't be Boaty McBoatface. Please don't be Boaty.
Don't be that one.
Reaches down and goes, shit, it's Boaty McBoatface. On Tuesday, researchers published the results of Boaty's first expedition. Oh, now it's got a nickname.
Boaty.
I like that better. Boaty's first expedition. Why not McBoatface? Okay. Boaty's first expedition in the scientific journal PNAS. And it seems the comically named sub has already facilitated a serious discovery. In April 2017, Boaty spent 3 days exploring the bottom of the Southern Ocean, traveling a total of 180 kilometers, or about 111 miles, while recording the water's temperature, salinity, and turbulence. Using a combination of Boaty's data and measurements collected by the IRS James Clark Ross, researchers were able to identify a previously unknown mechanism allowing the winds blowing over the Southern Ocean, which have been getting stronger in recent decades due to climate change, to increase the turbulence depth beneath the ocean's surface. Wow. Boaty did some good shit, but I don't understand most of it. Quote, our study is an important step in understanding how the climate change happening in the remote and inhospitable Antarctic waters will impact the warming of the oceans as a whole and future sea level rise, researcher Alberto Navarra Garabato said in a news release. The data from Boaty McBoatface gave us a completely new way of looking at the deep ocean. Oh, okay. Why didn't you just say that to begin with? Researchers Eleanor Frashka-Williams added. So there you go, Boaty out there hitting it out of the park, man, right out the gate.
Yeah, man.
Go Boaty.
So, you know, you've heard of the North Atlantic Conveyor, right?
Oh, the ocean currents?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in the Navy, bro.
I know, right?
But I was in the Air Navy, so it's a fair assumption. And you're probably right. I don't know why I know about it, but I don't think I learned it from the Navy. Anyway, I'm sorry. Carry on.
No, it's just isn't that where they're measuring the water because the cold wind is making the water on top colder and it gets more solid, kind of solidifies and sinks into the warmer water that would be beneath of it, and it's changing that belt. Isn't that the problem that's global warming is causing?
Well, right, but which mechanism isn't in some sort of weird?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the thing. I
was just wondering if that's if that was what was significant about its discovery, is if it was related to that belt, because they say they don't want that to shut down, but that would be bad. Anyhow,
this is in the same podcast that we were just discussing, a 10,000-year-old settlement that's underwater. You know what I mean? So
it seems like there's going to be more underwater. So
it's weird because as this shit, like they were talking about sea level rise, and but then everybody's like, "Well, it's a natural phenomenon, man." It's like, well, okay, well, let's all seek higher fucking ground, I guess. You know, I
just do it naturally.
This one comes from Unilad. Harry Potter Wizards Unite augmented reality game launches this Friday. That's tomorrow, man.
Okay.
You're not into Harry Potter?
I've never seen any of the movies or read any of the books.
No fucking way.
No.
By choice?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, like, I'm not against them. I just never sought them out. It never seemed relevant to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Being a Dungeons and Dragons fan, you didn't. I mean, it's wizards and all of this kind of magic.
Well, there's a lot of variation in how you would run a D&D game. It could be a lot of different ways you could run it. You could run it like a Harry Potter game, but I wouldn't.
No.
No.
But how would you know? You've never seen the movies or read the books.
Well, I've heard so many people talk about them, though.
So you know the story pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More or less, yeah. Some of the characters and, you know, who wrote them and why.
Right.
And, that sort of thing, yeah. I'm not against them or anything, and I just don't think that they would be right for me. I mean, Game of Thrones novels were not right for me. And Tolkien, I've never read Lord of the Rings. I've read The Hobbit, but I've never read Lord of the Rings, and I don't know if I'm going to ever.
Okay, so have you seen the movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're significantly different enough from the books, according to the world. Like, you know, I haven't read them, but everybody who has and are really into them, I've had very long discussions with them about it, and they assure me that they're different, you know.
Okay.
So a lot of people that are really into the books didn't care as much for the movies. Me not having that frame of reference, I dug the movies just fine. I didn't have any problem with them because I didn't know shit, you know.
Right.
And, you know, I know they left a lot out of the Hobbit movies, but...
Well, they left a lot out and then put strange full battles in that weren't in the books.
Same thing with George Lynch's Dune.
Yeah.
He put weird shit in there that was never in the books, like the whole welding modules that did the voice thing. That was not in the books at all.
I'm trying to remember. I read Dune. No, there was something to that effect in the books, wasn't there?
No, not
in the original.
Not with the voice thing. That was a David Lynch invention.
No, I mean, like, but they had some sort of. They had handheld weapons and things.
Yeah, they had weapons
okay.
like knives. Like they had knives that were like the teeth of the worms, and.
I might need to go back and reread that book. It's been a lot, dude. I mean, it's been 30 years.
Yeah, I remember you said you really liked it because it
years.
made you feel like you were really there.
It's intense. Yeah,
Frank we even talked about it, I think, in one of the podcasts, because I'd been reading the whole series over again. When I'd gotten through like the first 4 or 5 of the, none that Frank Herbert wrote, but his kid and the other guy that wrote the Star Wars book wrote. Don't remember their names.
Is that Timothy Zahn?
I don't remember.
He wrote some of the Star Wars, but that's the only ones I know of. Because I bought those right after they first came out.
Maybe. Yeah, I just know the guy was famous for writing Star Wars books, and he was the guy that co-wrote with Herbert's kid, whose name I don't remember.
My entire literary exposure, as it were, like outside of technical manuals and shit, all comes from basically the 4 years that I was in the Navy, being stuck places where I didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of these novels, all the like Red Storm Rising, The Hunt for Red October, all of those kind of novels were always laying around, which was, what's his name? Jeez, I can't think of his name.
The guy that did those?
Yeah. Tom Clancy. Good Lord. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. So a lot of those Tom Clancy novels I read. I read a lot of Stephen King stuff. Still fucking hate the Tommyknockers because of as a book. People either love it, but that book for me was just, I got to the end of it and threw it.
Never read any Stephen King.
So that's where a lot of that comes from, is like I said, being stuck on ships and being places where I couldn't do anything, but I had to come up with something to do. So I just pick these novels up and read them and then just put them back down for somebody else.
When it comes to fantasy, I like sword and sorcery as opposed to epic fantasy. And I define epic fantasy as being like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, movies and stories about a world where the people that are the characters in the world are there to facilitate the story of the world.
Right.
Right. You can kill them off, you can bring them back or whatever, but it's there to tell the story of the world. And sword and sorcery is just the opposite. It's a journey with a character through their world, where the world is just the background, and what's really going on is what's in the character's mind or heart,
or following a single hero, and sort of their personal story arc versus some epic thing that's happening.
Yeah, because there's so much investment you got to do in that epic thing. Like sometimes there's maps and languages and lineages, and it's like, good God, you're going to be committing a long time figuring this out.
It better be good.
It better be, right. You better want to do it, because otherwise it's a task. But that's the thing with the Harry Potter stuff, is that I knew it wasn't really sword and sorcery, and also too, I tend to have a preference for the more bizarre sword and sorcery, like Michael Moorcock or Philip K. Dick, or Joseph Farmer.
Philip K. Dick, the Blade Runner guy.
Yeah, like in terms of fantasy, I'm talking not just
I didn't know he did sword and sorcery.
No, not like sword and sorcery, but in terms of fantasy in general, like science fiction fantasy.
Something that's a little more edgy, a little more out
bizarre,
there.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
How come there's never been, and this is probably a question have you ever pondered this, but like, how come there was never a Shadowrun style, like a legit, that they're just paying homage to that genre type movie? Or was there ever anything? Because they've done it with Dungeons and Dragons.
A lot of people point to Johnny Mnemonic. That was a fairly old show.
Oh, I never made that connection. I was getting closer with the Matrix kind of thing.
That would be my second thing.
It's kind of there, but
yeah. I don't know, man. They did it. They've done it, but they haven't done it in a dystopian fashion.
It's such a great, developed universe, and it's so ripe for modern sort of sci-fi interpretation, especially given, because I think everybody could relate to it more today.
There's Shannara, too.
When it came out. Yeah, that's a different system?
No,
or it's a movie?
It's a book wrote by Terry Brooks, and it's a television series that, pardon me, the MTV did.
Oh, I've seen that. It's actually not bad.
Yeah, and it's got like spells, and it's got orcs and goblins and demons, but it also, they come across like
it was a little
old 20th century shit, like that's 300 years old, right? Like they go past these big giant ships and stuff. So it's kind of like Shadowrun.
I felt like and I don't think we ever finished it. My wife and I started it a while ago, but it was it felt very pastel. Yeah. Like the way it was filmed.
MTV said that they wanted it to be the family version of Game of Thrones. Like it was
so that was done on purpose.
Yeah, it was supposed to be soft, where Game of Thrones was like harsh and adult.
Okay, then that makes sense. Let's see. You might have read the books, seen the films, and bought the wand, but now Harry Potter fans can experience magic like never before as an augmented reality game brings the wizarding world to life. 8 years after the release of the final film, the hype around Harry Potter is still as big as ever. Practically the entire landscape of the series has been recreated in various theme parks and attractions across the world, and thousands of tourists walk away every day decked out in house cloaks and scarves, carrying broomsticks and chocolate frogs in an attempt to get themselves that bit closer to Hogwarts.
I just don't like quintessential fantasy where it's stereotypical, right? Like I don't like the normal, hey, there's elves and dwarves and wizards casting spells
Too
and
vanilla.
spells. Yeah,
It's like it's vanilla.
it is like D&D. And
Yeah.
I played that plenty. I don't want to see that reflected really in the
Oh,
movie.
I see where you're coming from. Like you're not shitting on it per se. You're just saying it doesn't really inspire me.
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
No, I've seen 1,000 versions of that in various books and
Right.
TV shows and movies and
Been there-
games and
been there,
people's
done
ideas.
that.
Yeah, I'd rather see something like absolutely bizarre.
It's pretty fresh though, man. I loved it because I had kids, little kids that came up with the books too. So there's a real connection with me to that universe through my kids. And so that I'm a big fan of it.
That's cool.
I think she's amazing. But that I get where you're coming from. Had it not been for that, I remember a buddy of mine asked me one time in a parking lot about we were getting ready to take some clients into lunch, and it was the first time I had ever heard about Harry Potter books. And I thought he was talking about the books that Stephen King wrote for kids. He wrote like a series of books for kids. And then he looked at me like I had three heads. Like, well, within a year or so after that, I had my own kid. And then within 2 years after that, I was like, what are we reading? So, we were doing Barney, the Wiggles, all the stuff you do with kids at that
Right.
at that time, that genre.
This must be significantly better than that.
And dude, I had to come up with something because I wasn't fucking doing the Teletubbies. So Harry Potter it was, And then so these are the books like I read to them. And then we went and seen the movies together and stuff. So I have very good connection with that storyline through that. That's sort of, and I think a lot of people around my generation do as well because of their kids.
They have several times tried to make either television shows or movies of the Elric books that Michael Moorcock did, and they even have problems making movies out of them if they're going to stay anywhere near true to what's going on. Because, for instance, there's all kinds of really bad scenes in the whole book, not like demonic and torture and things like that, but like there's this one scene where all these aristocrats are dancing to this music, and the music is being performed by these slaves that they've captured that have done raids on their island, and they've surgically mutated the slaves so that they can only scream one note. Like they've taken out all their vocal cords except for like a C sharp or a B flat or whatever, and they arrange them in choruses, and
they just chime in on the appropriate note kind of thing.
And that's kind of there's all kinds of really decadent, bizarre shit like that. And
Michael Moorcock, what book series is that again? Did you
the
say that?
Elric Saga.
The Elric Saga. Okay,
Yeah.
you did say that. Okay.
Yeah. So like that would some of the things that they do, and like there's a lot of sex scenes in the background, kind of a thing. Like there's not really anything gratuitous in the books, but they're referenced. And if you were doing a visual movie of it, you would see these things like demons and women having sex and weird shit like that. And
Well, yeah, but I mean, of all the horrendous things you could see, that's on the lower end of the scale than the blood, violence, gore, death.
Yeah, all that was all that together,
Good God,
just X-rating, and it's like, I don't know if we can really do this.
We can really make this, huh?
And it's not like even that's the gist of the book necessarily. It's the because the main character of that book has turned against all of that, right? But it starts off and he's kind of like embedded in it, and he's slowly.
So it's like a journey for this person out of that.
Yeah.
Forgive me, my ignorance. It's not something I ever read, but what's starting to happen though with a lot of these type of stories, we're seeing Netflix and Amazon start to produce these where they don't have the standard limitations that a major motion picture has per se, about being released, like you said, being X-rated and this kind of stuff. and even HBO, some of the stuff that full frontal male nudity, like crazy over the top stuff by way of comparison to
And stars.
Yeah, it's nuts, right?
Yeah, they do it. I think the worst or the most
with their made for TV content that they do themselves, type stuff.
Yeah, like they did Spartacus, and that had a lot of frontal male nudity and sex and stuff, and it was pretty more gratuitous than.
Well, it's getting wore out in the sense too, man, that even like Game of Thrones kind of got. People were like, okay, it's enough. You know, it's too much.
And The Walking Dead.
Same thing with the violent.
Or they took it to be really violent, like human on human violence. Yeah. And that was somehow much more of a problem than zombie on human violence.
It was a bridge too far, finally. It says, in the game, much like Pokemon Go, players will explore the Muggle world using their phone. However, there will be signs of magic and sightings of Harry Potter characters incorporated along the way. According to Business Insider, players will take on the role of a new wizard recruit who is working with the Statute of Secrecy Task Force, SSTF. So it's like Pokemon Go. That's kind of cool. Did you and your kid ever mess around with Pokemon Go?
No.
No? God bless you. You're so lucky. My son posted something on social media like, I'm team whatever. And I responded to it I think it was on Facebook. I said, you better be on team, you better not be fucking using data or something like that.
On team no data?
You better be on team not using fucking data. And he was like, I'm not using data, I'm sorry. Okay, so this comes from Futurism. A snail-inspired glue can paste you to the ceiling, then let you go.
I've heard of this.
This is cool shit, man. Yeah. I've actually read a little bit about this article, full disclosure. When it comes to adhesives, you really have two options. Something super strong that creates an irreversible bond, like super glue, or something that's less strong but reversible. Think mounting putty. Now researchers have discovered an adhesive that's both strong and reversible. So, of course, they used it to suspend an engineering student from the ceiling. Got to, man.
This is why your engineering students need insurance.
At the center of the team's study, which was published in the journal PNAS on Monday, is a polymer called, we're going to call it PHEMA for short. While working with the hydrogel containing FEMA in the lab, Penn Engineering graduate student Gaoxong Wu,
I like that name.
Gaoxang.
Gaozing.
Woo.
Okay.
Noticed the polymer had something in common with snail mucus. When wet, it was rubbery and sunk into the surface's grooves, but when dry, it hardened without shrinking, remaining locked onto the grooves. Quote, when it's conformal and rigid, it's like super glue. You can't pull it off, researcher Xu Yang said in a press release. But magically, you can re-wet it, and it slips off effortlessly. Reusable super glue.
It's nice.
Fucking science, man.
Yeah. Who's going to save you, Matt?
Scientists and engineers.
Yep.
Every time. Pennsylvania has become a hotbed of Bigfoot sightings.
I heard somebody was actually going to go to Pennsylvania to look for Bigfoot.
Here recently?
Yeah.
Like a friend?
No, guy came in to where I work at.
Okay.
He said he was leaving to go to Pennsylvania to go hunt Sasquatch.
A customer?
Yes.
Wow. If catching a glimpse of a real-life Bigfoot has been on your bucket list, you might want to plan a trip to Pennsylvania.
Well, you shouldn't put that kind of stuff on your bucket list. You might just die before anything happens.
According to CPS Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania now ranks as the third best place to catch a glimpse of Sasquatch. These findings came to light thanks to the Travel Channel's new show In Search of Monsters, which analyzed the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, or BFRO, collection of sightings data. According to the BFRO, which dubs itself the only scientific research organization exploring the Bigfoot Sasquatch mystery.
And I believe that.
I believe it too. I think they
are the only
I'd bet
ones.
money on that. Yeah. Of the 23,000 Bigfoot sighting reports they have on file, 23,000, Eric. 1,340 of them came from the Keystone State. Although the site notes that there may be significant underrepresentation in some areas that lack sufficient internet access or computers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They don't have access to the internet unless people
Sasquatch or
see Bigfoot.
Pine cone throwing Luddites, aren't they?
Pine throwing Mennonites?
No, Luddites.
Luddites. Yeah. Oh, computers, right. I heard Mennonites. Same Mennonites. Fucking thing.
Yeah, same thing, except the Mennonites have a guy that will drive them around in a van, where the Amish people have a guy that will drive them around in a buggy. In a buggy, yeah.
The Philadelphia Inquirer recently reported on the growing popularity of Bigfoot hunting in Pennsylvania, with some cryptid searchers even viewing it as a fun weekend pastime.
Matt, I know you're a little wet behind the ears at the reporting. You're going to go out there and you're going to work the Sasquatch case.
I'm on that shit. Yeah, boss.
The guy that gets this job.
Though Bigfoot's popularity may be on the rise in Pennsylvania, both California and Washington have Pennsylvania beat when it comes to sheer numbers. See, I would have went with Florida.
Yeah, well, they got the zombies down there, apparently.
Like the, what do they call those? Basalt zombies.
Yeah.
California was deemed the second best place to look for Sasquatch, with over 1,697 sightings reported, while Washington leads the country with 2,032 sightings in all.
What if those reports only reflect the amount of crazy people that's likely to say they've seen?
Like to go crazy because they're willing to go on record about it? Or?
Yeah. Like what if you're just putting yourself into a larger population of people who maybe just don't see things the same way as I do? Maybe. I don't know.
I just think it's one of those things like with aliens and everything else, man, and the Loch Ness Monster, whatever, if with as many cameras as people have on them today and as much data that's being just captured all the time, trail cameras that are on buildings, all of this kind of stuff, some of this shit should have turned up by now. Now, I get how the aliens have technology that allows them to spoof modern surveillance methodology there, Mr. Smith. But how does fucking Sasquatch pull it off with trail cams and shit like that?
They are literally finding dried up riverbeds from the Bible period. They're literally finding the ancient city of Ubar that's described in the...
Is that the Vedic texts?
No.
There's one in there, too.
The Muslim book, the Quran.
Okay. Right. And the Vedic text, there's one that they found off of India someplace.
I mean, they're finding this shit.
It's crazy.
They can find all of that. It's hundreds of years old, sometimes thousands of years old.
Yeah, right.
They can't find Bigfoot on
Well, not only can they
camera or
not
satellite.
find Bigfoot, they can't find Bigfoot. They can't find any of Bigfoot's bones. They can't. Now, I believe that there was Bigfoot-like creatures on this planet at one time. It's funny. I swear to Christ, I don't want to go out here and say this, but when I pull, I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm just not. It's weird. I don't want to jinx anything yet. Okay. But I would have thought that this stuff would have been picked up, sooner or later. Someone doing an archaeological dig, we would have found
bones,
some.
Yeah.
And instead DNA. I have to believe in this grand conspiracy that the whole globe apparently is in on this weird conspiracy.
There's
right?
They haven't found any of that for aliens. They haven't found any of that for ghosts. They haven't found any of that for deities. They haven't found any of that for Sasquatch.
I just find it to be a little far-fetched, Eric. I'm just saying. So, folks, if you want to get your Bigfoot on, Pennsylvania is the place to do it, and tell them the No Shit Cast sent you.
I like the way they spell Sasquatch, though.
Sasquatch.
Sounds
it's a Native
German,
American name,
isn't it?
I think so.
Yes, I guess so.
I could be wrong about that. Please don't quote me on it.
No, you probably are right about
that. But
it
sounds like something that should be a Native American name.
I just keep seeing Andre the Giant in my head in a big monkey suit when he fought Lee Majors playing Steve Austin.
That was Andre the Giant?
Yeah.
It really was, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You could probably Google a picture right now if you put Andre the Giant Bigfoot.
No kidding.
Probably.
I remember that show, man. Those were so great.
Yeah.
This comes from TheVerge.com. Tesla Arcade hands-on, using a Model 3 steering wheel as a game controller. So you get the premise here. They put a game inside the Model 3, inside the car. and you can actually use the car's controls to play the video game that's built into the car.
Well, I don't see it as being needed.
It says Tesla's pulling its secret video game features out of the shadows and bringing them front and center starting today as Tesla Arcade, a new game hub found across its line of electric vehicles. And earlier this afternoon, the company brought a Model 3 to downtown San Francisco to let The Verge try out Arcade and its newest title, developer Vector Units Beach Buggy Racing 2. It's an iOS and Android racing game you can play on a phone or tablet, but what makes it special on a Tesla car is its controller, the literal steering wheel of the Model 3. He seems so unimpressed by this.
I just don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. I can't imagine that I would ever have this as a reason to buy a car. And I could probably say something flippant about not driving and doing it, but I'm assuming it's meant for like when you're...
Yeah, I doubt it works when the car is actually being driven.
Yeah.
If that's what you're getting at.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
okay.
I'd say something like that, but I know it's probably for not that. But I wonder how much it drains the battery and the life and stuff.
Of the car?
Yeah, isn't an electric car, right?
Yeah, but compared to the drivetrain, it's
minimal.
It's parasitical at most. It's not much. It's like an iPad screen so it's like an iPad's worth of juice. This thing moves motors that propels a vehicle down the road. That's where it gobbles up the power.
Okay. Cool.
And but all you got to do is just constantly drive downhill because then it regeneratively brakes, and you don't. You never have to charge it that way.
I like that where your cursor's at.
Where it says
that right there.
I don't see myself ever really wanting to play mobile games on the screen in my car.
That's the first I looked up. I'm like, well, you see, there's somebody that sees it a little bit like I do, maybe.
Yeah, but listen, here's the rest of it. But as someone who commutes via bike and hasn't owned a vehicle since they graduated college, I can say that having a car even remotely capable of playing video games like this is certainly an appealing dream.
That dude just wants a car, man.
Please give me a car.
Please, it's awesome.
Mr.
I
Elon.
refuse it.
Yeah, Elon, listen, bro, buddy, if you want me to ever review any of your products, just ship one of those on out here, man. Shoot me a PM. I'd be more than happy to do reviews on your products for you, like one of the new Sportsters or any of those.
Me too, man. But don't expect me to give a good review. Just saying.
You're not helping me here, bro.
Yeah.
All right, this one, last article here. This comes from ZME Science. Legal recreational marijuana wreaks havoc on illegal markets, study finds. Imagine that. People,
the government supports the market, and all of a sudden your black market goes to shit.
Shit, yeah. Like all of a sudden criminals can't get shit tons of illicit money anymore.
The government's always shitting on the criminals.
It's almost like some of us predicted this. If you want to stop drug dealers from pushing cannabis, new research suggests legalizing its recreational use definitely works. Duh. Researchers from the University of Puget Sound at the University of Washington report that legalizing recreational cannabis can increase the use of the drug, but, more crucially, shifts purchases from illicit markets to legal outlets. The results are based on analysis of wastewater samples from one Western Washington population center over several years. Get that? They're checking the pee. They're checking the... That's what
you throw away.
Yeah, and they've been monitoring for the levels of certain drugs and stuff that's in it.
They're not checking just your pee, just collectively.
It says, quote, we set out to perform a wastewater-based analysis that explored the impact of newly legalized retail cannabis sales on its use and to determine if this approach could estimate the size of the legal marketplace, says Dan Burgard, chair of the chemistry department at Puget Sound and lead author of the paper. This is where it gets cool. This is one of the ones I read. Bugard's team analyzed samples of wastewater collected between 2013 and 2016 from 2 treatment plants in Western Washington. Collectively, the 2 plants served around 200,000 locals. The researchers test samples from 387 days spread over 3 years. The team relied on a new analysis method for faster and more accurate measurements of illicit drug consumption compared to existing measures. Raw wastewater samples were collected at treatment plants and analyzed for drugs and their metabolites, the byproducts created by our bodies as they process a given substance. at extremely low concentrations, parts per billion or parts per trillion levels. These figures were used to track drug consumption trends, both legal and illegal. While the approach doesn't allow for the team to track individual users' habits, they do show overall trends. For example, the concentration of metabolites can be used to calculate the actual number of doses of a drug used in a particular area. So now they're doing this for like, the opiates and those kinds of drugs too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard about this in major cities, but some really interesting data has come out of this. Okay, so thanks for sticking with me because this is where, based on the readings, the team estimates that KSC-088-THC, the psychoactive component in cannabis in the wastewater, increased by 9% per quarter on average from December 2013 to December 2016. During roughly the same time, August 2014 to December 2016, recreational cannabis sales increased at around 70% per quarter on average. In other words, the increase in legal sales of cannabis far outstripped the rise in raw and of use from the samples collected in raw wastewater, showing that users are making a massive shift toward legal avenues for getting their fix.
That makes sense.
And it dispels the myth that if you make it legal, then like the usage of it's going to skyrocket. It really hasn't.
Switching.
Everybody's just switching, right? Yeah. Given that wastewater represents a total population measure, these findings suggest that many established users switched very quickly from the illegal to the legal market, says Bogard. This is the strongest statement possible regarding displacement of the illegal markets.
Yeah, man.
Ding.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and how did they find it? They checked the toilet water.
Yeah.
That's how they figured it out. That's pretty cool, huh?
Economics or morals.
Yeah, whichever you want, right? How about we just stop trying to tell everybody what they can and can't fucking do with their selves and what they can and can't eat?
Let's just quit connecting ethics and morals with economy.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
Please. All right, man. Anything else going on?
Nope.
We ripped through a big bucket of stuff here, Bubba. We'll have to come back and talk about it. But might have some guests on this weekend. Some people coming and joining. Some other guests. Not that you're not a guest. I apologize.
No.
Please love me forever.
Yes.
But looking like we might have. I'm trying to get Anthony back on. I'm trying to see if I can't get Kenny in here, possibly Anna.
Cool.
So it should be a fun time. So feel free to jump on by all means. And I guess we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening, everyone. Check us out at www.knowshitcast.com. That's KNOWSHITCAST.com. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Please give us a rating on iTunes. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you like what we do, please share us. And we'll catch you all next time. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye, Sickles.
Bye.